let you know who they were. Won't take a second to do that. And Solomon Lewis, Ben Carterberry, Mitchell Bob. Mitchell Bob, his son Bertram Bob and I were very good friends, and so I got to meet him. And Robert Taylor, Calvin Wilson, Pete Manitubby, I knew him. James Edwards, Jeff Nelson, Tobias Frazier, I knew Tobias Frazier. I had cousins that were the Fraziers. Ben Hampton, Albert Billy, Walter Beach, Joseph Davenport and George Davenport, Noel Johnson, Otis Leader, Victor Brown, Joseph Oklahomby. These were the men that were Oklahoma Choctaws that were code talkers. I had to write some of this down because I am a little old and I don't remember as well as I used to, so I wrote a lot of stuff down. But contrary to the popular belief, the first use of a Native American language as a code occurred during World War I. Most Americans have heard about the Navajo code talkers of World War II. Few people have heard the story of the original Native American code talkers. During World War I, the relay of strategic information was difficult, as German forces were masters of breaking coded communications among the Allied forces and had tapped into every line of communication. Towards the end of the war, it was realized that among the troops were men who spoke a language that was not Latin-based and had never been written. While there were many conflicting reports and interpretations of the details of this story, there are three main facts that are not disputed. First, during World War I, over 10,000 Native Americans, approximately 25% of the adult male Native population, voluntarily served as active duty with the United States military forces. Even though Native Americans did not enjoy all the rights of citizenship until 1924, when Congress passed the Indian Citizenship Act. I'd make a little note here that none of my family, including me, were citizens of the United States when they were born. So we all became citizens later. I know that some people think, well, how come you're not, but that's another one of those being old days. But I wasn't considered a citizen of the United States until I was born later. I volunteered for war at the rate twice that of the rest of the American population since World War I. Second, within 24 hours of using a Native American language for sensitive Allied military communications in World War I, the German forces ceased advancing. And within 72 hours, the German forces were in full retreat. The German retreat was precipitated by the lack of information about Allied troop movements. Third, the Choctaw men of the 36th Infantry Division were the first to use a Native American language for verbal communications as a military code. Were tapping into their radio and telephone messages and had succeeded in capturing messengers. While Regimental Commander Colonel Alfred Blower and Captain Homer are often credited with the idea of using the Choctaw language as a code, one of the code talkers attributed the idea to Captain Lawrence. According to Solomon Lewis, one of the 18 Choctaw code talkers, Captain Lawrence was walking past a group of men when he happened to overhear Solomon Lewis and Mitchell Bob conversing in their native language. The captain then asked Lewis, "Corporal, how many of you Choctaw boys do we have in the battalion?" After conferring with Bob, Lewis reported that there were at least 8 men in the battalion who spoke fluent Choctaw. Captain Lawrence then asked, "Are any of them over in headquarters company?" Lewis replied, "I think Carterbury and Maytubby are over there." Lawrence got on the field telephone and told headquarters to find Ben Carterbury and Pete Maytubby and alert them to stand by. Lawrence told his commanding officer, Regimental Commander Colonel Bloor, "Get them and stand by. I've got the idea that might just get these Germans off our backs." Lawrence told Bob and Lewis, I'm going to give you a message to call into headquarters. I want you to give them a message in your language. There will be somebody there who can understand it. The first message to translate and to relay was given to Metro Bob, who used the first field telephone to deliver the first Choctaw coded message to fellow Choctaw Ben Carterbury, who then translated it back into English for the battalion commander on the other end. Within a matter of hours, the location of the original 8 Choctaw men had been shifted until there were at least 1 in each field company headquarters. I just realized that I knew the son of the original Cold Harbor that first started it. That just popped in there when I read Bob. Okay, on October 26, 1918, the Choctaw soldiers transmitted messages in their native language for the Allied commanders who were coordinating information in preparation for the attack the following morning. The German forces had no translators for the Choctaw language, nor did they have any method of deciphering the new code. The use of the Choctaw language was a complete success and marked a turning point in the war. The Allies were able to capture over 500 prisoners in 30 minutes on October 27, 1918. Commanding officer Colonel Bloor of the 142nd Infantry Regiment wrote in a memo to the headquarters in 1919 detailing the events that took place. Within 24 hours after the first messages were transmitted, the German advances were stopped, and within 72 hours, the Germans were in full retreat. This campaign helped set the stage for the signing of the armistice in November 1918. By the end of the war, at least 18 men served as code talkers for the Allied forces. While the war may have been won without the use of the Choctaw language, it most certainly would have taken longer to win and would have cost more lives. Joseph Oklahoma, another man who served in the 143rd Infantry Regiment during World War I. Oklahoma's stories are probably some of the most famous and often repeated. On one occasion, while serving with Allied forces in France, Oklahoma happened upon a group of German soldiers having a meal and resting in a cemetery that was enclosed by high walls with only one gate. Reportedly, Oklahoma single-handedly began firing at the men, killing 79, until the whole force of Germans, a total of 171 men, surrendered. Another event involving Oklahoma is reported by Ben Carterbury, also a code talker and a buddy. One day, according to Carterbury, a French detention camp officer spotted Oklahoma approaching with 2 German prisoners. But when he arrived at the entrance of the detention camp, there was only one prisoner. When the French officer realized this, he asked, "Where's the other one?" Oklahoma, somewhat bewildered by the inquiry, answered, "I killed him." Before the astonished officer could recover, Oklahoma added, "Want me to go back and kill him some more?" Not making it public was that the military believed that the Choctaw language might be of use in future war. The original group of World War I Choctaw Code Talkers honored the pledge of secrecy so well that some of their own families were not even aware that they had provided such an important service to the United States. It is believed that even today, some descendants still do not know if their fathers or grandfathers were code talkers. As there were at least 87 Choctaws in the 142nd Infantry Division of the 36th Division, it is highly possible that more than 18 Choctaw men served as code talkers before the end of the war. Since the Choctaw code talkers volunteered their services in the United States. Although medals were promised to the Choctaw code talkers for their communications and contributions in World War I, they were never awarded. While other tribes have received federal recognition from the United States for their service in later wars, the Choctaw code talkers of World War I have not. It is time that these code talkers receive the recognition that they deserve for the unique services in World War I. The public has a right to know the stories of these brave men and the contribution they made to the American effort. Well, I'll add another note here. I'm a history buff, and I make notes of everything I can about my tribe. And then put it in I've got a little black book, and I keep everything. September 16th in 2007, an exhibit was put together for the code talkers, and it was located at Camp Mabry, Texas, Military Museum in Austin, Texas, finally recognized the World War I Choctaw code talkers. And I know our tribe was very happy and pleased about that. But with the exception of Colonel Bloor and Lieutenant Colonel Morris's letters in 1919, the Native American soldiers of World War I were largely ignored by American military forces. The British and the French, however, did recognize and commend the efforts of the Choctaw soldiers. The French Marshal in 1918 wrote, "I cannot forget the brilliant services which the valorous Indian soldiers of the American armies have rendered to the common cause, and the energy, as well as the courage, which they have shown to bring about victory, decisive victory, by attack." While the British and French remarkably during World War I, Oklahoma schools banned the use of the Choctaw language, even though it was one set in code. But the Germans were never able to translate. Some Oklahoma schools continued to ban the use of the Choctaw language even after World War I. Employees of boarding schools of Native Americans told the inmates that speaking their native tongue was as bad as cursing, and were punished accordingly. So that's supposed to be that punishment. So, but one of the things that I am extremely proud of, my youngest grandson was born in March, Christopher Church, who was president of college up in Berlin. And my grandson Nick knew nothing about Native Americans except his knowing his dad. And when they moved their last and then back down to California, he was in the cathedral of San Francisco. Nick decided he wanted to come to Oklahoma and spend some time with Billy and I. So we were thrilled to have him. But he came and he said, "So he." So I
to Choc Talk churches, some Choc Talk songs, because you have them, many in the kitchen got adopted. Nobody had them, maybe had them working in the kitchen. So it's quite true that Billy worked one whole year sitting in the floor around the house. They Choc Talk books, records, and by the end of that year, Nick was speaking pretty good Choc Talk. His memoir. I ain't to do that, I have no idea what he did. But today, he is one of the most outstanding Choc Talk teachers.
Moved into Oklahoma, the second Trail Tiers. Then the Cherokees were the third Trail Tiers. They came in from the Carolinas, Georgia. Billy's family was from northeast Georgia. And there at one time was way more than, right now we have like 39 tribes, I believe, in Oklahoma. There was much more than that in the beginning. Oklahoma was south half of Oklahoma was promised to the Choctaw Nation when they moved in. Of course, that was the first move. But when they got here, 3,000 of them had died on the way from Mississippi to Oklahoma. So there wasn't as many people made it because some of them ran off to Texas, some went to Louisiana, they didn't know where Oklahoma was and what was going to happen, so they ran away. But when the Choctaws got here, they decided that they would leave.
In World War II, parallel the code talkers in World War I.
Next week, a week from today, next Wednesday.
Pardon?
Next Wednesday, a week from today, I'm going to try to talk to you about World War II and the Navajo code talkers.
Right. Okay.
And I'll tell you, I was in the war in Europe, but I'm pretty well acquainted with Navajos. I knew their chiefs, and I've done business with them for years. So next week at this time, I'll